Just recently, 65 hit movie theatres starring Adam Driver in a sci-fi adventure with him stranded on an alien planet battling dinosaurs. Written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who are best known for writing A Quiet Place. They had directed 2 features previously together, with Nightlight and Haunt. Produced on a modest budget of $45 million, filming commenced in December of 2020 in New Orleans, and additional shooting in Louisiana, taking advantage of the National Forest in Vernon Parish. The film was supposed to be released last year and missed 5 release dates, and was not given much of an advertising campaign, outside of a couple of trailers and TV spots, and with no previews it's landed out of nowhere. The reviews have so far been very mixed. The Guardian newspaper gave it 2 out of 5, saying it's not quite the toxic disaster it's been treated as, but 65 is nowhere near the giddy lark it should have been, crash landing somewhere in the middle instead. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 2 out of 4, saying, "This loony, murky and muddled sci-fi action semi-thriller takes a detour through B-movie lane, in a film that isn't compelling enough to make for silly popcorn entertainment, but isn't terrible enough to be labelled a disaster." But Empire magazine seemed more positive, awarding it 3 out of 5, saying an old-fashioned disaster B-movie with a slick presentation sci-fi premise, 65 holds few surprises, but like Adam Driver's resourceful, humane human, it gets the job done. Adam Driver plays Mills, who's from another planet, and his mission is to transport a bunch of humans across the galaxy to their destination, but on approach his spaceship is knocked out of space by an asteroid belt, and he lands on an uncharted planet. The spaceship has been cut in half and only one person survived. With his nifty gadget he finds the other part of the ship that has an escape pod. In order to get he and Koa, played by Ariana Greenblatt, have to make their way through hazardous conditions and avoid a dangerous species, which in fact are dinosaurs. He has crash landed on Earth 65 million years ago. I love it when random sci-fi films pop up now and again, ones that aren't based on a comic series or an existing book, just a new idea that explores the genre in a different way, or takes traditional ideas and weaves it into something new. So when the trailers dropped for 65 and seeing Adam Driver battling dinosaurs, I was very intrigued. Now, before going to see it, I was aware it hadn't been receiving glowing reviews, as I skimmed over some recent feedback. So I went into this expecting it to be a so-so film, and to be honest, it is a bit of an average movie, that does however have some interesting ideas and elements to it. Now, having a guy look after a child and escorting them from point A to point B is nothing new. It's been done dozens of times before, so the premise is very unoriginal. You do have this twist where they land on Earth 65 million years ago, so they are aliens and are stuck on this dangerous planet. The film cuts to the chase very quickly, having his transport ship be knocked down by an asteroid belt, and he quickly realises he is in trouble, and finds only one survivor. He has to persuade the girl to follow him, and they struggle to communicate as she speaks a different language, but they think of ways to bond and trust one another. And this is where some comedic moments come into play, but it doesn't quite pull it off. But the film's strength is the emotional angle of the two, who are just put through dangerous situations, often due to Koa not following Mills's orders. The action isn't constant. You go in expecting a lot of dinosaur attacks and seeing them constantly on the run, but it plays out a bit slower than you expect. You think something is going to happen, but then everything is fine. So it does a neat job of building tension. It does deploy a couple of effective jump scares, and once things do kick in, it does deliver with some intense action sequences, but you do get a nagging sense they're not really taking advantage of this interesting premise. As it's a 12A, it's not going to be too gory or violent, so there are cutaways to avoid anything too intense. With its small budget for a modest sci-fi film, the CGI is surprisingly very good. I didn't look at it sensing the computer effects look cheap or rushed. A lot of effort has gone into it. As we've had 6 Jurassic Park films since 1993, it's difficult to match the quality of the computer effects with their far higher budgets, but also provide something new. The Jurassic Park series has done everything, and there are a couple of shots that seem very inspired by those movies. But what 65 does is make those dinosaurs a real threat again. Once you hear them walking through the trees or hearing their roars in the background, you want Mills and Koa to get running immediately. When you have a plot that is basically going from one destination to another, you need to fill the middle act with enough story to keep the audience engaged. Outside of throwing in action, there isn't really much there. Sure, we get to see Mills and Koa become more friendly, but with only 2 people in the main cast, you quickly run out of things for them to do. The biggest threat to the pair outside of getting eaten by the dinosaurs is the big asteroid approaching Earth. They look up to the sky and see this streak of fire as this giant asteroid gets closer and closer. So avoiding the dinosaurs, they are running out of time to get to their escape pod. I think Adam Driver is a great actor. He was the best thing in the new Star Wars trilogy for me, and since those films he has done very well with a lot of big roles, and it's nice to see him take part in this. 65 is a nice nod to 70s sci-fi. It has all the trappings of a B-movie, which I'm always happy to see, but I just left the cinema wishing they had more fun with the premise. They throw in a handful of dinosaurs. In reality, you wouldn't find all the different types of dinos hanging out in one area. They throw in meat eaters who see them as lunch to keep the threat throughout their journey. The score by Chris Bacon, who has collaborated more recently with Danny Elfman, working on scores such as Men in Black International, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Wednesday, provides an interesting score to 65 that has a nice piano melody for the emotional moments and amps up the action with heavy percussion with electronic cues mixed into it to create some decent action and chase music. It's certainly worth a listen. 65 is certainly not a bad film. I would probably watch it again when it comes to 4K Blu-ray perhaps, but don't go into it expecting it to blow your socks off or provide action sequences that will leave a lasting impression. 65 has its moments, but again it doesn't really deliver on what it's selling, which is a shame, but it's certainly not a complete write-off. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and click the bell to be notified of my latest retrospectives and reviews. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain early access to my content and exclusive videos, then follow the link below.